Aloha mai kako, everyone. My name is John Kealoha Garcia. I'm the second Vice President, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Commerce for the Nation of Hawaii. Just wanted to say mahalo nui to the Ohana here, Taku River, for having us, to the ICI for thinking about Hawaii all the time, including us in this dialogue. Our digital identity, I would say, this project and our broadband and these relationships have been a big part of our identity. I would say like the next generation of nation building for our nation. I'm going to teach a little about the history of Hawaii and how this all translates to connectivity. So Nation of Hawaii, 131 years of connectivity. So it's like the evolution of sovereignty for our independent nation. And I go through the journey through a timeline that begins in 1893. I always start off my talks with this paragraph. Whereas prior to the arrival of the first Europeans in 1778, the Native Hawaiian people lived in a highly organized, self-sufficient, subsistent social system based on communal land tenure with a sophisticated language, culture, and religion. This is the first whereas clause of U.S. Public Law 103-150. And this law it's also known as the Apology Law, and it was America's confession to committing genocide against the Native Hawaiian people. It's actual federal law. So to talk about, I guess, connectivity, let's talk about our disconnection. Okay, back in 1893, this is our queen, Queen Liliuokalani, and she was overthrown. This is the Iolani Palace. Iolani Palace was actually the first U.S. government building in the United States to be powered, actually. And so, this building had power before the White House, because Kalakaua, which was our king at the time, he was very forward-thinking and made a lot of friends around the world. So we had technology and we had access to different knowledge. And the Kingdom of Hawaii was a sovereign independent nation. It was actually the first non-European country to be part of the family of the League of Nations. And we had over 30 major treaties with other countries. The first treaty and all the treaties are through the lens of perpetual peace and constant friendship. And so when we reestablish nation-to-nation relationships, now it's all through that lens of peace and friendship. If we can't be friends, then we can't do business. So 1993, I mentioned the Apology. It was signed into law on November 23rd, 1993. So it marked 100 years since the overthrow. And it was only one of 5 apologies America ever gave. But the Apology Law actually served as a basis for federal recognition to make the Native Hawaiians more like an Indian tribe. And so when the law was signed into law, my kupuna, my elders, decided to reproclaim the restoration of their independence. So at the time, our president, his name is Bumpy Kanahele, he led a houseless encampment of Native Hawaiians to go and occupy a beach in Hawaii. And it was through this 15-month occupation that we eventually ended up getting our land base and asserting our rights to self-determination. At the time, our president was serving on a Sovereignty Advisory Commission, and he oversaw the international law section of that, ended up bringing in an international lawyer to advise us on our next steps. And so reproclaiming the restoration of our independence was one, forming our own constitution, and then promulgating the Nation of Hawaii in 1995 at the steps of Iolani Palace. So this was when the Apology Law was signed into law. We're working on a few documentaries, feature-length documentaries to capture this now and to really break down the law. And for us, we call it part of our legal foundation, but it's really a basis for us to continue our independence. The inherent sovereignty of Hawaii is actually in its people. And so that's the work we do. And it's been 33 years so far. This is all my elders on the steps of Iolani Palace when we finally established our country. And so it's unprecedented because we're Hawaiian by birth. I'm Hawaiian by birth, American by force, right? And so I have kind of like this dual identity. I was brought up as a proud American and very disconnected from both of my cultures. And so, I've been lucky enough to be part of this movement and teach around the world. A big part of our nation building was centered around media. Okay, and so this is where it starts to get more into like the future. Just get into it. You know, the advent of social media became a big way that we started to build our digital capacity and broadband. Back in 2015 to 2017, we started getting into like cryptocurrencies and different blockchain tools. We also passed an act that was actually our Digital Currency Act, allows us to have our own monetary systems. We launched our white paper for Aloha Coin, which is a digital token project back in 2017, and we did a lot of work. We do a lot of work in Asia. Because of the international relations that our king had, a lot of connections in South Asia, in Malaysia and other parts of Siam and China and other places. We went from a very limited capacity connection, so basically like dial-up, to having to go down to Starbucks, and you'd have like 4 or 5 families in the parking lot doing their homework at night. Some people had satellites, very spotty. Do you guys remember Clearwire, little wireless hotspots things? So we had a bunch of those. Those were good. Then they went away. And it was in 2019 that I actually met this group here. Yeah, Spencer and a bunch of you came for an Indigenous Connectivity Summit, and we hosted that at our network. So going back to the media, you know, these are some screenshots of the Nation of Hawai'i being featured in different movies. This is our president here, Uncle Bumpy. This is Hawaii Five-0. The premise of this episode was there was a fugitive. He was Hawaiian, and he was running from the cops, and he came to our village. And law enforcement stayed outside, so they called the president, come down to them. So we utilize a lot of those narratives to tell our story. Another one is Aloha, the film, if you guys ever get a chance to watch it. Not the best of a movie as far as entertainment. A lot of Rotten Tomatoes, I think. But it has a piece of our history in there. Cameron Crowe was the director, and they were actually going to shoot the movie. They came to Hawaii, ended up consulting, came to the nation to like get some buy-in from the community, and ended up changing the movie to incorporate the law and kind of the struggle and outline that. So it became a shareable piece of media, a way for us to tell our story. A few of the structures on the land base also are built through these productions. And we just leave it up. This is our land base. Our current land base proper is only 55 acres. Okay, and it's in a really interesting situation. It's a lease through the state of Hawaii's Department of Agriculture, but we've been occupying for like the last 33 years. There's a transitional provision in our lease that returns the land back to us, so we've just been asserting that. And we're in the process of going through different land transfers to transfer the land, to return the land back. Our goal eventually is to change the land tenure system in Hawaii back to communal. You can imagine how that's going to go over. But right now, we actually sit on what we call the Ko'olau watershed. So we're at the top of the aquifer, meaning that all the water that runs mountain to ocean in this system, and I'll go over that system in a bit, is stewarded by the people at the top of the water. In my culture, the word for water in Olelo Hawaii is called vai. The word for wealth is vai vai. And so if you have water, you put a Hawaiian on land, create wealth. And so you can see a lot of terrain issues, no electricity, there's not much infrastructure. The land base itself has around 20 structures, houses like 120 citizens. We have like 20 or 30 families. And I'll go over some of those specs in a bit. 2019, the broadband era. So this is really entering into this spotty, bad infrastructure to something more formalized, more of a system, a more professional installation. When we first started planning, so actually, I think it was the Inuvik. Was it the first one?
Inuvik was second. So
Second
the
one.
year before you.
Yes. So at that conference, one of our friends' name is Bert Lum. Bert and I have known each other for a long time. He's been in tech. And he was like, hey, you guys should come to Hawaii. Talking to Mark and at the time it was Internet Society and a few other partners to host a summit at our village. Everything worked out. This is us looking at the map, taking a look at the land base and seeing where's what, understanding the terrain, so we can start to plan a network. A little bit of a, and some of this stuff is dated. The network now is 5 years old. I'll talk a little about the evolution. We're going through probably the fourth evolution of the network. When we first started, we actually have two gigs of fiber backhaul from Hawaiian Telecom. This is a local provider. They actually had to upgrade the entire neighborhood's infrastructure in order to serve us in the mountain. They're actually going to charge us like $100,000 to build out whatever we need to build out. So we said no need, and we just trenched it ourselves. I'll get to that. So we started off with 1 gig fiber backhaul, 2 BiCells, ENB, so base stations, E node Bs, and
Like what?
yep, the base station. So similar, it's serving as a DMARC, basically your source of internet. And then we're using CPEs, the consumer premises equipment, all by BiCells is a company. They create these devices, and so we're able to power 10 separate connections from that one connection. And that serves maybe 50 to 200 or so clients at any given time. A couple devices, a couple hundred people. This is like some of the early graphics and infrastructure mapping out. Once we sketched out the network, I put together some icons and sort of just so we can understand where is what. We use it as a key to manage it. Some really simple spectrum analysis just to see like how it throws. These particular CPEs, things like 180 degree or so, 160, something like that. So it's a pretty wide spread. You can connect up to 128 devices to each eNode B. I don't think it would do well. But these devices are pretty finicky, meaning that they're higher voltage, they require some electrical. Unlike these Starlinks you plug in and it's all kind of over the counter, these require a little more electrical engineering and configuration. There's also like an online portal where you can manage accounts, you can do billing and everything all in one. So it's pretty much like it's a wireless ISP. So I can log into Cloud Core now and see the status of my network. So that was really like our broadband journey, going from a limited to maturing capacity, going from satellite and wireless hotspots to building out Hawaii's first community broadband network, which means it's owned by our community, it's managed by our community. If it goes down, we get the call and we got to fix it. And I think also a good example of like a multi-agency effort with a sovereign entity within another nation, which is our oppressor. So it's really interesting, like example of how this community can really be like an example for self-determination. Just a little virtual tour of the network. I mentioned earlier that a lot of connectivity is really about knowing who's there, going to the place, chasing it down, looking for the light, completing the loop. A lot of that requires people, right? Like we can't get into if we don't know uncle, so knowing who's there is like the first piece of it. This is our vice president, Brandon Maka'ava. It's hard to see, but he's in our closet and fixing. We have fiber coming in, and then it's kind of where everything takes place. Trenching, this was like a big part of it. So we had to bring the fiber into our land base from the street. So the 600 feet or so of trenching from the road up to our pavilion. And then Hawaiian Tel was able to come in and hang fiber and then create our little network setup. So trenching was a big part of it. We just so happened to have the equipment and the operators. There's Eddie, just jump on it and go. I'm sure they had a safety meeting. Fiber to base station. So when the fiber is installed, that gets converted into Ethernet up to our base station. And we have 2 of those. And then from the base station, then it transmits to CP, to home. This is my view when I'm up on the roof. I did not have a lift. Should probably get one. This roof is a little higher than this. So it's pretty tall. This is what the device looks like. You can see it's like a wonking thing. Don't want to really stand in front of that, right, Spencer?
Yeah, not too often.
Yeah, when you work bench it, you don't want to stand in front of that thing. And then once we're connected to the device, we've done everything from like live streaming weddings to like MIT panels, all from our sovereign land base. And then, you know, a big part of once we connect to the device, we can connect to ourselves and to the community, re-educating, providing better social conditions, distributing food, doing our monthly markets, different governments, services, and we can connect to the world. The Nation of Hawai'i has been reporting at the United Nations General Assembly. It's called the UNPFII. It's the Permanent Forum for Indigenous Issues since 2017. Been a non-governmental organization there. Sharing about the Pu'uhonua model, the restoration of our ahupua'a, and how digital sovereignty is becoming a big part of how we govern ourselves. Some shots from the actual summit. We actually had, it was like 3 days, right? Similar to this, where we had the community come out, we did the splicing, we had to configure these devices, but each family actually went and installed their own. Like, so it was a big thing, everybody knew how, and some of these people aren't alive anymore. So, yeah, auntie right there. There's my mom. My mom just passed. Yeah. More shots. There's our trenching crew. Yeah, this office that we're in now is actually getting broken down. We're at a really interesting place in our nation where we're starting to redevelop our entire village. Yep. This is a tool that simulates your what you call it, your signal, yeah, your coverage. So this allowed us to see, it can kind of show you like where we're located on the east side of Oahu, Waimanalo Beach. So this section here is called it's a land division called an ahupua'a system. And this was the ancient land division that sustained the native Hawaiian people since the beginning of time. We're the most isolated archipelago in the Pacific, and so we need to be self-sustainable with our food. So that's how we did it, was through the ahupua'a system. A little closer, you can kind of see like the throw of it all. Signal strength. It's more a simulation, right? Like, this still takes you going there and testing it out, seeing the reach. Technically from there, we could then line of sight to any of the houses within the homestead here. That's kind of like the plan in the future. This network actually served as the model for 8 other networks across the Hawaiian Islands. Building out in all of our Hawaiian communities after this model. We've been able to double the network. So we have 4 eNode Bs serving about 20 houses plus, and we're working on expanding that. We did add 2 Starlink demarcs, and so we have like our community garden area. Some of our gardens in the back are now powered with Starlink. Our biggest issue is energy, so we're working on an energy microgrid right now that'll take our village off-grid. This is the scaling, how we scaled. So the Waimanalo network is here. We also prototyped a network in Waihole, helped to deploy a network here out in Waianae, which is a village, another houseless village being redeveloped right now. And then some of the outer islands, Kipahulu on Maui, and Miloli is a old fishing village in Hawaii Island. This is what the Waianae throw looks like. So the community they basically have been living at the boat harbor down here for 20 years. They ended up purchasing a property here. This is Pu'uhonua Waianae. This is where the fiber demarc was. They wanted to transmit the signal down to the beach to serve both communities while we transfer everybody up. And so that process, people have actually been moving in, and they're starting to vacate the harbor. This is Kipahulu, what it looks like. There's absolutely no self-service here. And so this is what the Kipahulu project looks like, Spencer. So there's 3 buildings. This connects maybe 30 or 40 community members in this area. And it's in like a gulch.
I remember these maps, the diagram. I remember
all the arrows. Yeah, and then this was an update. Actually, this is like a year old. This is pretty much the same. I would say we expanded out to some of the gardens on the end. I think it helps to have maps like this, have it drawn out, have someone who's good at graphics, or there's lots of different tools now you can use to lay it out. And then, our connectivity and our internet allow us to connect on a global scale. I mentioned the United Nations earlier, so our vice president reporting about our progress. We have mentioned the work here that we've done at the United Nations, so it's all on record, and we share all that stuff. Some of our international relations. In 2022, we launched our first international consulate in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And then we have trade offices across China and Japan right now for us to do business. It's Hawaii dollar. And then some of our future plans. It's actually 8 networks now. We're doing the microgrid. We do have a foreign trade zone, so we're actually working on reclaiming our trade and commerce, the shipping lines. And then I think also the next step is to establish nation-to-nation connectivity so that we can trade between tribes. We have land registry platforms we're working on developing sovereign digital infrastructure, and eventually our local data centers. All of the enterprises that we launch at the Nation of Hawai'i have a shareholdership built into it. So every Kanaka will own a share of the companies and enterprises that we launch. And then, our goal is world peace. So we want to connect with other nations, sign peace and friendship treaties. We've been able to ratify 3 treaties so far with federally recognized tribes back in the continent, which is unprecedented. Our first was the Yurok tribe, or the Timbisha Shoshone tribe, but we also signed with the Yurok tribe, which is California's largest. They're like 7,000 or so, 54,000 acres. I think they just reclaimed 40,000 more acres. And it was actually the first treaty they've ever signed. So it's really interesting. We don't need any permission to connect nation to nation and affirm each other. So that's our goal. And, through the internet and through having this connectivity, we're able to do our monthly markets. We've been doing it for 2 years now. Thousands of people supporting our Hawaiian and women-owned businesses. We also have like a monthly Aina Day where we're restoring the Ahupua'a. And like I said, world peace. Auntie Pilahi Paki, she said the world will turn to Hawaii as they search for world peace, because Hawaii has the key, and the key is aloha. So that's it. If you guys want, you can scan the QR codes, our little our EDU packet, a little more information. And yeah, that's who the Nation of Hawai'i is. Mahalo. That's it.